Joining us right now in the Hyundai Texans radio studio, it's the head coach of the Houston Texans, Lovie Smith. And, Coach, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's a busy week for you getting ready for the Denver Broncos, and let's wrap up the Colts game. You've been asked a lot about the 4th and 3 and the punt and everything. My feeling at the time was, hey, get something positive out of the day at that point. It was a virtual sure thing to do that, and it seems like that's the way you felt as well.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation, Mark. We wanted to win. We're up big, but at the end, had an opportunity. We kind of dodged the bullet as far as getting the loss with the missed field goal. And then we had our chances, looking at 3rd and 1, couple downs to pick it up, 4th and 3. Then you get in a situation where you say, okay, not an ideal world. What's the best scenario for us right now? I felt like putting ourselves in position to not get the loss in that moment. There's a lot of football left to go. And as it turned out, we went into the game wanting to be in first place in AFC South. And right now, that's where we are. So that's reality. It's not an ideal situation, but something we can still build on.
Coach, I've called it a choose-your-own-adventure novel. You're making decisions in the fourth quarter for a coach, because that's essentially what it is. In the first quarter, you might go in and make a decision that you thought of on Wednesday, like, hey, we get the first series, if we get to here, we're doing this. You get to the fourth quarter or you get to overtime, there are about 1,000 decisions that get into that particular decision that's going to be made. For you, it seemed like you had it in your mind, like, I know exactly how we're going to go through this. Was that decision made on the spot, or was that decision that you thought of like during the week as you're going through game prep?
John, we try to go through as many situations as possible, and we were in agreement what we should do there. It's not like I was a lone wolf by myself on that situation right there. That's what we felt like we need to do then. That's what we feel right now. We're going to move on from there.
Coach, what's it going to take to run the ball the way you want to do it? At times it was there yesterday, but you said after the game you want to see more on the ground.
Well, it's just that. I mean, the same commitment to the run we still have. When you say a commitment to the run, I'm talking when people say that, and when I say that, it's not going to always be pretty. There's going to be some days and some plays where it doesn't look good. But you keep the commitment, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to give the ball to Damon more. I will say that. Give it to him more. And some of those same plays that maybe don't work right now, they'll work a little bit later on. But you have to keep that same commitment. We're not going to all of a sudden change what we believe based on what happened at the end of one game.
But if you throw the ball, that O.J. Howard character is a pretty tough little guy. I mean, big guy. You get him for all of about 10 days, Coach, and he comes in there and he catches 2 touchdowns. A, did you see that coming? And B, what can he mean for this offense going forward?
Well, did we see it coming? You hope that that's the case. If you just look at OJ's history, he's a perfect specimen for the tight end position. He can run, he can catch. So we thought that would be a great addition to our roster, and it turned out that way. The first game, but he's excited about what else we can do with him. And not just, of course, O.J., Brevin, Pharaoh, that entire tight end room.
What are you looking for in the passing game, Coach? You hit 9 different receivers yesterday, so that was good. And I know you want more production there as well, but you did have the 2 touchdown passes. You did have the lead. So what did you see that you liked and what needs improvement?
Well, a lot of things need to be improved, but what we like is that. And you mentioned the amount of receivers we got involved. That was a part of the game plan. But, when you don't win the game, you kind of look back. And even if you win it, you look back on opportunities lost. And there were quite a few in the passing game right up until the end where we felt like we had some – think about just starting a game, passing game, third down, first 2 third downs. Those are makeable third down position that could have kept drives going. These are things that we'll work on and hopefully play better this week.
Coach, one thing I said during the broadcast, they get the field goal to go up 3-0. They're driving again. And you think, okay, worst case, they kick a short field goal, it's 6-0. But then John gets the stop. You guys get out of there, and then you kind of turn it going the other direction. It felt like you took their best shots And we see this a lot in football. You take early shots, and then you're like, you kind of shake it off. And then from there, from second, third quarter, it felt like you guys were in as good a groove as you've been in.
Yes.
It felt like John's tackle right there on the 5 kind of got everything going in the right direction. Is that the way that you saw it? And how big was a play for you for that?
It was big. As you mentioned, John, we talk about starting fast.
Yeah.
And, of course, finishing strong. But those were the 2 quarters where we really didn't.
Right.
You mentioned the second and third quarter where we played our best ball. But there were plays made throughout. Jonathan Grenard's big play down there, of course, in the red zone. It's another thing. We played pretty good red zone defense, too. So there are some positives to pull from. But playing a 60 or, of course, 70-minute game, that's the next goal that we need to get accomplished.
Coach, I always think after a game, win or lose, you got to turn the page very quickly, get ready for next week in this business, no matter what happens, because otherwise you'll get beat the next week, even if you won in the last outing. You tied. So what is the feeling like in the building and with the coaching staff so far? I know it's Players' Day off on Monday, but you've seen a few guys around. What is the feeling like after a performance like that? Because you didn't lose, but you didn't get the W either. What are the emotions?
Well, John, you talked about all the scenarios you go over before a game. That's how it is for the season for us.
Yeah.
So, Mark, we were in early this morning. I watched the video with the offensive staff, defensive staff, and the special team staff. And those guys have moved on to Denver already. Mm-hmm. So that's what you do. And it doesn't matter really whether you win, lose, or tie. It's the same thing. You evaluate the video. You figure out corrections you need to make, changes you need to make going forward, and you move on, and that's where we are.
Coach, with the offensive side of the ball, I'm always curious because obviously you coach defense. We all know that. But when you're watching our offense, are you looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, I feel like we could have stopped that particular play, and this is why? How do you kind of look at the offensive film and then share that with the coaches?
They're just that way. From a defensive perspective, Pep Hamilton and our offense, they're trying to attack certain defensive schemes. Some week, the opponent has a similar scheme. This past week, opponent had a similar scheme, and that would be the case the first few weeks that we play. So that's how. And then just, defensive mindset. It's always good if you can get that to know really some of the ins and out behind the curtain a little bit on some of the things that teams are really looking for. Being able to share notes like that, that's what we've been doing throughout, though. Pep Hamilton and I have a similar background. I'm talking about on how we think you should put a team together as far as offense, defense, marriage together and all of that.
Coach Jerry Hughes, you mentioned him in your press conference. What does it mean to have a player like that on this squad who has not only got the experience, he was drafted in 2010 by the Colts, he's got the experience, but he makes a play like that to get you going and several other big plays in the game?
Well, it's just so much. And I've talked a lot about Jerry because first, just what he does off the field. I think it means a lot, when you're a local guy trying to help your local team, professional team win football games. And when you've been in the league as much as he has on how he's done it, how he takes care of his body, how he practices. Guy, practices like he's a rookie undrafted rookie trying to make the ball club. But when you get to the game, it's about production. And Jerry was into it. He played outstanding ball. A lot of us didn't play our best ball yesterday, but Jerry, that was a heck of a start for him to start, to get this season kicked off the right way.
Boy, I thought he stole the ball. I thought he had it. That was the one thing, Coach, I think about a veteran too, because EJ Speed, when he came around the edge, he was looking to just hit Davis. But Jerry came around the edge on Smith, and it was his eyes were focused on the ball.
Ball in mind. Exactly, John. It's one thing, and we talk a lot about this when you're a defender or whoever. Yeah, a defender I'm talking about, not just defensive lineman. When you're there, a lot of guys just thinking sack, but it's always about the ball. And you see that's the only thing he was looking for. He was able to get it out. Now that rest of that part of finishing, of course, the whole play.
Yeah.
So the rookie class, Coach, they get their feet wet, they get action, and you mentioned this, preseason is one thing. The speed gets turned up several notches in the opener. Week 1 to week 2, what are we looking at here as far as the jump that those young players can make, and maybe everybody for that matter?
Well, I think no matter what it is, when you're doing it for the first time, you don't know. Everybody can tell you what it's like, but you have to go through it. You have to witness that, live it. And our rookies have lived it now. There's no more first game. Yeah, it's first game on the road, but they understand that. And a lot of the guys that that we drafted, they played in front of big crowds. So you need to get that first game under your belt, and then just see, what you can rely on. And that's my keys, my responsibilities. Some of the basic fundamentals is what is going to come down, whether it's your first game, I'm a rookie, or what else.
And, Coach, you have guys that may not be rookies by the actual definition of it, but guys that have not started a lot. A guy like Jonathan Owens playing safety, and obviously he's playing next to a guy that's never played an NFL game, at Jalen Petrie, and yet they combined for 22 tackles. I'm glad you answered your question at the presser the way that you did, because when you see safeties with a bunch of tackles, what does everybody do? Yet, modern defense, those safeties have to be part of the run game. How did you look at the way those two young guys played together?
I thought they played together. They made the positive. They did make a lot of tackles, and once the ball, no matter how, once the ball carrier gets to that second level, you can't let them go the distance. And we did an excellent job of that. But those guys have taken every rep in practice. They show up. They're students of the game. They do it all the right way. And any mistake that they made yesterday, I really feel they'll clean it up, this coming week. That's what I'm excited about. You're right. 3 of the 4 secondary guys are, haven't played.
Yeah.
Really a lot of ball. So they are going to be a sponge, and they're talented, and we'll have opportunities. You go from Matt Ryan, an excellent quarterback, who's been in the league for a long period of time, to what's that quarterback's name for dinner?
Russell
Wilson or something like that.
Russell.
He's been
Coach is
an outstanding
joking,
player for
everybody, in case sometimes it doesn't come through the microphone.
No, Russell Wilson has been an excellent quarterback, as good as there is in the league for a long period of time. So big challenge to an even bigger challenge that we're going to face this coming week.
All right, what about playing in Denver and the mile-high conditions? Do we make too much of a big deal out of it as media people, or is it a real thing? How do you handle that, Coach?
Where are we going now? Out of the country to the moon? I mean, it's still here on Earth, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to make a big deal out of it. I assume what I said, altitude, it affects you a little bit. We played there a few different times before, and I think people talk about, and when I was in Chicago, all we talked about in the wintertime was how cold it was.
Yeah.
And other opponents playing under the same conditions, so it didn't really matter in the end. And I'm going to assume that whatever the conditions are there, our guys are going to be ready for it.
I always felt like it was verbal intimidation. December in Chicago. Yeah, it's going to be cold. Everybody hears that it's cold. You walk into that stadium and they say, we're a mile high. And it's like, but altitude does affect some people. Some people it won't affect at all. But, Coach, I don't know how much you've gotten into the Broncos per se, but it's a team we haven't seen since, 19, I think?
Yeah.
19's the last time that we've seen this team. And they got a new coach, and they got a new quarterback. How much more difficult does that make to prepare for them? I know you did some offseason work on them because they're one of your first 3-4 games. But in getting ready for the Broncos, how tough is it that you haven't seen them as much as you saw the team that you faced this past Sunday?
Well, it's harder. And, of course, we knew everything about when you're your division rival. You know them a lot better. So we don't know a lot about them. It's kind of simple as that. Russell Wilson didn't play pretty much in the preseason. New coaching staff. So there's a lot that we don't know, but it helps that they're going to play on Monday night.
Yep.
With Monday Night Football tonight, so we'll have our eyes fixed on it and be ready to go.
And one other thing about Monday Night Football, you say you have your eyes fixed on it. How about your ears? Is there anything that you can pick up because the audio is so good on a Monday night, on one of these major primetime broadcasts? Are there things you can pick up with your ears too?
Yeah, I mean, there's always things that you can pick up. I don't know exactly how much, but we're going to try to watch it, and hopefully there's some good information that we'll get from it.
All right, so you don't get the all 22 for, another day or so, or a half a day. So when you watch it, you'll definitely watch some of the game, if not all of it, right? What do you get out of a TV copy of the game? Because as a coach, you want to see the whole thing, what's happening downfield, the secondary, the receivers. What do you get out of that TV view?
Substitutions, things like that a little bit, maybe some of the injury reports, but eventually, as you said, Mark, it's our coach's video that we're going to rely on then, and we'll have it as soon as possible, and that's what we'll make our game plan on based on that.
Coach, not that we want to know the plan, but what's the one biggest thing you want to see from week 1 to week 2 in your team as a none of it's a change, but you just want to see from week 1 to week 2, you want to see these things or this thing in week 2 that you maybe didn't see in week 1.
It sounds like coach talk, but it's just individual improvement. Some guys made more mistakes than others.
Yeah.
You just want guys to clean up that. It's no different in practice. You have one practice, the next day you want to clean those things up. And that's what we want to do as a football team. There are a lot of situations we went through. We learned from those, and you want to hopefully that'll help us win the next game.
All right, Coach, you're doing something that I've never had before, which is the players' day off on Monday, and Tuesday's a work day for the players. And this applies to the listeners, too, because they're used to the players being out on Tuesday at all their community appearances, but those are going to happen on Mondays this year. How does that help you for a Sunday game to schedule it the way you are?
Well, I mean, we've done it both ways. Look at it this way, Mark, especially when we had primetime games, too. Your family's in town. You have a lot of things going on. To be able to sleep in Monday after the game, and for the coaches to have to rush to watch the video with the players. Now we can take our time, really analyze the video, see what direction we're going, get the injury list and all those things. So whether it's Monday or it's Tuesday, and then schedule-wise, we practice in the mornings. So we need to have a walkthrough before it. So that's why we have a walkthrough Tuesday evening before Wednesday AM practice. It all just kind of works together this way. And if you use it the right way, guys I've been around tend to like it this way.
Coach, one thing we didn't talk about, we talked about all offense, defense, and all this. Your kicking game seemed to be pretty good yesterday. You had Tremont make the hit that got the fumble out late in the fourth quarter. Kaimi hit 2 field goals. How did you look at what the unit Frank Ross led yesterday? How'd that group play?
Thought they played well, as you mentioned. And the core special teams guys did a good job, too. MJ Stewart, Blake Cashman were outstanding. We're going to win games this year based on what we do with the kicking team, with our special teams. And, again, it was a good start for them yesterday.
It was bizarre to see the ball bounce out of bounds at the 1-yard line twice in a row. I mean, you don't see that every day.
No, you don't see it. We sometimes during that game we got the lucky bounce a little bit, you can say.
Yeah, and it was also out of Nyheim Hines on the punt return, but they got it right back. It bounced right into Rodgers' hands, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunately. Sometimes the break go against you. That's just the answer. There's no other way to look at it. It always evens out. During the course of the year, some of those balls are going to bounce our way.
All right, Amegy Bank Ask Coach question of the week, Coach. We talked about you coaching youth sports, really, middle school football. But parents want to know who coach kids. What are some of the do's and don'ts when you're coaching little kids? What are your thoughts on this? And what should people keep in mind as they coach their teams, whatever the sport might be?
Well, I think the first thing is, don't judge them by what we do, professional players. And what you want early on is you want our young people to fall in love with the sport. And the only way you can do that is for them to have a positive experience. So, just try to highlight the positive things as much as possible. And then just start, highlighting some of the things that they need to get from it. Just learning what it means to be a part of a team and responsibility that goes along with that. And, again, on what I would like, we have Mary and I have quite a few grandchildren. We want them to have a positive experience, to fall in love with the sport, and they can kind of grow up from there.
Excellent. Coach, thanks a lot for joining us. Good luck this week.
Anytime.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.